I guess I'll start because I actually am. Todd did just ask me to do a project with Cameron, different Cameron, on like a stop motion project.
Hmm.
Because I guess Cameron's a little bit more of a 2D animator compared to me, where I do like toy photography. So he's asking me, is like, oh, what are your like process or like lighting setups or like what all like. So I sat down with him for a good like half an hour just talking to him over, you don't getting into photography or like stop motion necessarily in this kind of case. You don't necessarily need a big fancy dancy camera. I have a fancy camera in my own like thing just because I've been doing this for like 15 years. But, in my case, that's because I'm doing like toy photography specifically. And with my creative process, I was kind of, I was kind of trying to copy, not directly, but copy like some of the people that I enjoyed their style. But as I grew, I wanted to become more of my own toy photographer, more of my own photographer. So, picking up on like figure out edge lighting, doing like, you know, depth of field, working on all that. I always loved the this is also another thing for my process is I don't know if it counts as the creative process. I always love especially Jenna and John, you've seen my some of my shots I've taken. Some of I've done a little bit more recently. They're a little bit more better. They are very much in the tokusatsu style because that's a lot of my work is because I collect these action figures and I take these pictures. And I just love the way that these are shot. The actual shows are shot, and especially they're shooting these on like a budget of like 15 cents in a dream sometimes, but like they still make it work. It's the lower angles, Dutch angles, all this kind of stuff. And I at least try to have a little bit of, visual consistency or kind of try to make it look like you could probably see this on a show. Or, I want to have like that kind of visual language when it comes to my work, I guess. That's at least for my thing. And trying to explain this in a photography standard for stop motion to a 2D animator for me was a little bit of a not a hassle, but I was trying to juggle how to explain it without coming off like he knows for like being a 2D animator like the core like a main character and like background and all that kind of stuff, but it's just like having to explain certain other intricacies the best I could without like also sounding like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So, but that's really what my kind of whole current project and creative process is kind of going with right now. So, I mean, do you want to start Jenna then, or do you want to go then John, so
Uh,
you can?
well, for me as an autistic creator, one of the first things that I think of is that you really do think differently. You think things from a different perspective. And one of the things for me is that I question a lot of things around me. And I wonder if these various concepts could be expanded upon in some of my own stories. And initially, I started off working on fan fiction material. And I think a lot of creators can probably relate to that. You start off writing fan fiction before you start working on more original works. Fan fiction is more like a stepping stone to work on original creation.
Yeah,
And so a lot of the things that I was a fan of, those helped influence like my style and do how I draw things, the kind of stories that I write, but also not even just like not only the things that I like, but just random like videos and stories that I came across, like stuff that talk about video games and movies and shows, and just seeing all of these various stories, like those actually helped uh fueled my creativity when I was just trying to figure out what I want to do. Well, I already knew what I wanted to do ever since I was 10, but I needed some more inspiration to, yeah, figure out want to, what I want to be.
Yeah,
And
because
and also something else is that something I've noticed, especially with like some autistic creators, is that we can be very emotional. We can be very emotional sometimes, but for me, as someone who grew up with parents that are in the science and medical field, being surrounded by all those logical and reasonable people, I absorbed that into my way of thinking. So they followed facts, and so I did too. So that's also another thing that I took inspiration from to help form my style, if you will.
I was going to say a quick thing before I let John, at least get his thing on. And I think, yeah, he's, there's a lot of like current original works that are very derivative of that have were kind of fan works. I think I'm not 100% sure if I remember correctly. There is somebody had said, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, is that Twilight was a fan work, like derivatively a fan work of a My Chemical Romance, or that might have been wrong. I can't remember, but I know there's like a whole there's a whole rabbit hole of that. But there's a
Actually,
good amount of stories.
I think it, wait, no, I'm thinking of something else. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if that story derived from a fan fiction, because it just reeks of someone just getting started on fan fiction and has no idea any sort of social cues or body language or anything.
Yeah. So, um, John, I guess kind of opening because I want to open for you because you do a little bit of writing and some fashion design. I guess when
Yeah.
it comes to your fashion design, I really love your work. And you put a little bit like fandom type work into it too. Like, what's that kind of process, especially for you doing like a costume or fashion design? Because that's a whole different field from like visuals and writing. So.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for inviting me on this podcast. It's
Mhm.
such an honor to be part of this, and I'm so glad I got to be part of this. But to answer your question about, I'm mainly also a writer and illustrator, and I've always loved costume design. I've always loved the illustration and style of costume design because if I see what the character is wearing, I can understand and get a possible idea of who that character is and where they came from. So to approach that interestingly and to be like, okay, I want to do something with this differently, such as like we see various versions of fairy tale characters along the way as we've gone through many years, various illustrations, various animated movies, various live action movies as well in the past. But it's a matter of how do I approach this differently where it is so unique and we've never seen this before for a character. So when it comes to coming up with the designs, I I do research and I kind of like pick little bits and pieces of what I like of the past costumes, not to like imitate or copy, but like, I love that aspect of that part of the costume, and I love this little bit of that from that era, and I love this little bit from this. But to collaborate all the pieces together in a way where it works is just so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
was. You
Um,
wanted to. Oh.
well, I was just gonna say like the idea of picking things out that you like and how can you mish them all together in a way that is unique to you. It's like I think that's actually how I also uh do like how I write my stories and how I draw my characters. I look at stuff, I research a lot of things that I'm interested in and take bits and pieces from it that I think I could use as inspiration and see how I could like make it in a way that only I could make it.
Very
Yeah,
true. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And another thing is, and I think, and that goes for costume design in general, is you can also have a lot of visual storytelling in costume design. This is a weird thing to bring up, but it's very timely. But they just showed off the trailer for Shrek 5. Or that's I want to at least talk about the costume design. Is you look at a lot of these characters, look at Shrek, look at Fiona, look at the daughter. We're not going to get into that whole conversation. We can get into that later if we ever want to. Is you can see there's a visual storytelling aspect for these characters, and this has been like 18-25 years for some of these characters, and that goes for a lot of like different stories, is that you want the visual storytelling. You know I think, and I wish I had a little bit more time to talk about this. When you have like all these projects that need to refresh their costumes all the time, there's I feel like there's a little lack of visual storytelling, compared to, if a character keeps the same like outfit and you see it just start like degrading or like getting dirty or getting ripped up. There's visual storytelling in that outfit compared to, and I'm just like not shoeballing it, just like throwing this in here, uh, changing out an outfit because your other one got like torn up. It's like that's the kind of situation you kind of lose in like this modern day, that you have, because you have to sell, like sell. And I
But
wish that,
also
what?
but also another thing sorry, but also another thing too is that I guess another reason why like as you were saying like it feels like visual storytelling and like character design tends to be like I don't want to say lacking because I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's examples of visual storytelling and character designs and such, but I think I think some of the main reasons why you don't see a lot of that sometimes is because, especially with like the big entertainment corporations, all they care about is pumping things out as quickly as possible. Don't even have
Marketing.
a thought behind it, just so they could like make as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time. And
It's
that
marketing. It's a easy marketing ploy, is to sell something that looks new. You sell something that looks like it's 3 to 4 years old, then some people are going to get tired. That's just how it is. Yeah, you might have some of the people that are nostalgic for a thing that came out like almost 30 years ago that just got announced, and it's just the same old tired stuff or whatever. It's that, yeah, and that's where I totally get where you're coming from. I might be wrong, I'm misunderstanding where you're coming from, but at least that's what I'm gathering from how you're saying that. So
yeah. But I was just gonna say like, wait, Shrek 5 teaser came out. Are you sure it's not AI generated?
no, it's real. It's real.
Oh no! Oh
That
my! Oh
that's the
my!
deepest I want to get into that today, because
Yeah.
I kind of really have, I do
I
actually have to go, but
I will
D-
say one thing. Um, I've thought about this as well. The whole like everybody's wanting nostalgia situation because everybody's, cashing on nostalgia, basically. Um, I think what people really want is something new, but that has the feel of what they were nostalgic for years ago.
Yeah.
yes,
Like
and
like coming up with like let's per se someone comes up with a original high fantasy series that has the feel of like the Lord of the Rings
Mm-hmm.
or Game of Thrones or something. Like it has that feel, but it doesn't have to be that per se.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't need to retread like a you don't need to do like Lord of the Rings all over again. You can be in the world of Lord of the
Middle
Rings.
Earth things.
Yeah, you can
Yes.
be in Middle Earth, or you can be in I don't do the Song of Ice and Fire like books,
Mhm.
but like you can be in that world, but you don't necessarily need to follow the central characters of these books, even if people get upset about it. But